Encounter at the Hospital by Amina Bint-Al Huda. Translated by Sultan. Dr. Miad was half asleep when the telephone rang. She struggled between sleep's powerful domination and her duty to answer the phone. It rang insistently until she finally answered it, and she knew she must. It was after midnight. An urgent case on the hospital's 7th floor made her quickly put on her Islamic modest dress, and soon she was hurrying towards the patient's room. A nurse near the door told her that an elderly woman in the room was seriously ill. Dr. Miad quickly entered and saw a young woman, modestly dressed, standing next to the old woman's bed. The young woman said anxiously, "Oh, doctor, this is my grandmother. She was complaining of severe pain, and she's unconscious." The doctor carefully examined the elderly woman, who began to moan, and the young woman paced the nearby corridor. Her grandmother had had a serious heart attack and needed to be hospitalized for a number of days. After giving the patient the needed medicine, Dr. Miad approached the young woman, whose eyes were filled with tears. The doctor felt that she had to comfort her and give her hope. She smiled, saying, "I'm sure she will soon be well. I have done all that is necessary." "I'm very grateful, doctor." "Don't thank me. It's my duty to help all my patients." She noticed that woman's face was pale, so she took her hand, which was cold to the touch, and told her kindly, "You're tired. Why don't you sleep for a while?" "Yes, I'm tired. I can't leave my grandmother alone." "Don't you have a sister or anyone else to help you?" "No," the young woman replied sadly. "She is not my grandmother, but is a mother to me as well." The doctor felt sorry to her and comforted her, saying, "I will look after her for you so that you can rest." "Oh no, you need rest. You work so hard." "I'm used to it, and I don't feel tired. I have slept for a few hours, and that is enough for me. Now it is your turn to rest, but first I'll get a book to read. I'll be right back." The young woman thought the doctor was a wonderful woman and felt she could depend on her. Dr. Miad soon returned with a book in her hand and said, "Now you can sleep. I will sit here and read. By the way, I am Dr. Miad." "I'm Warka. I'm pleased to meet you." Warka stretched out on the sofa and soon fell asleep. When she awoke, she found that she had slept for over an hour. The doctor was still reading near the sick woman, who slept well with the help of an oxygen mask. Warka got up and approached Dr. Miad. She asked about her grandmother's health. The doctor put aside her book and said, "She's all right. Now I shall sleep for a while after doing my morning prayer. I will see you later today, God willing." "I don't know how to thank you," said Warka. "You have been very kind and helpful. I'm all alone." "You're not alone. Almighty Allah is with you. You seem to be a committed believer in faith, can help you throughout life." Warka thanked the doctor again and walked with her to the door. When she came back into the room, she saw the book, which the doctor had just left, and the title attracted her attention. It was entitled, "Medicine, a Sanctuary of Faith." She wondered, what does it mean? What relation is there between the two? Isn't medicine a science which cures bodies or diseases, and religion worship of Allah in order to escape from hell? How can medicine be a sanctuary of faith? Curiosity prompted her to pick up the book. First, she examined the cover, which showed a drawing of human brain and the Quranic verse, "This is Allah's creation, but show me what those beside him have created." Surat Luqman, chapter 31, verse 11. Warka read a few lines from the book and thought deeply for some time, and then she read more until she got up to perform her morning prayer. A nurse entered the room in the morning to give Warka's grandmother a dose of medicine. A specialist and another female doctor who also came in later. The doctor's hair was uncovered, her high heels clicked as she walked. She turned to give Warka some instructions, and Warka noticed that her face was heavily made up. Warka saw a big difference between this doctor and Dr. Miad, whose appearance was natural, and she was eager to see Dr. Miad again. She needed her encouraging words, wanted to ask her a few questions about her book. She wondered why Dr. Miad had not returned. Warka's grandmother was feeling better, and Warka was glad to see her getting well. "I'm so happy that you are well again," said Warka. "You don't know how worried I was yesterday." Her grandmother replied, "I'm sorry to see you worry, especially since you are alone." "This time I wasn't alone. Dr. Miad was here. She is a wonderful woman, and she insisted that I sleep while she sat near you for over an hour. Praise be to God for sending you such a person at this time." Warka pleaded with her grandmother to sleep and not to talk to otherwise tire herself. She continued to read, and she occasionally glanced at the door. At noon she became quite anxious to see Dr. Miad and thought to herself, "Why am I so anxious to see her? I have known her for only a few hours. She is just a doctor performing her duty. Maybe she won't ever come again." Some inner voice told her, "You have a right to feel this way. This doctor is filled with compassion and sympathy. She is not only a doctor, but is also a good person, without whose help you would have suffered more hardships." Warka was deep in thought when she heard a knock on the door. She hurried to the door. It was Dr. Miad. They shook hands warmly, and the doctor said, "I heard from a colleague that your grandmother was better. I was busy all morning in the delivery room, so I must apologize for not coming sooner." "Oh, there is no need to apologize. You were not obliged to come. However, I did want to see you." The doctor looked concerned and examined her patient. "Has she complained of any pain?" she asked. "No, she is much better, thank God. As a matter of fact, I was in need of you. Won't you please sit down?" "I will sit down for a while. You look tired. You need to sleep," said Dr. Miad. "Oh, I don't need sleep, but rather a thorough waking up. I would like to ask you about some of the things I have read in this book," Warka told her. She sat near the doctor, who said, "Oh, I see, I have left my book here. You must have enjoyed reading it." "Yes, it really made me think deeply." "How?" "Well," Warka explained, "I never thought there was any relationship between medicine and faith. I know medicine deals with human bodies, while faith is only worship." Dr. Miad said, "But science leads to faith. The more one believes in the Creator." "How is that so?" asked Warka. "If someone ignores something, he cannot appreciate its value. For instance, if you take a look at this electric heater, you don't think about the great effort and care it took its maker to make it. You won't think about the numerous experiments that preceded this final product. Yet, anyone with a little knowledge can talk about its complex technical design." Warka tried to suppress a smile. Dr. Miad was silent for a moment and then said, "Are you a student?" Yes, I am in my final year at the university." She did not mention what her major was. Dr. Miad told her, "You are studying at the engineering college, aren't you?" Warka was surprised. She said, "Yes, but how did you know?" "Because of your small smile on hearing me mention the electric heater. I guessed that you are familiar with the subject. It wasn't a good example, but you didn't object out of courtesy." "It is a good example," Warka said. "Please go on." "So, you see, even a minimum of knowledge about something doubles its value. Science, with all its branches, brings scientists nearer to Almighty Allah. Medicine is the most important and accurate science. To a scientist who is not a fanatic, science is a road which clearly leads to faith. My religious knowledge is very limited, said Warqa. It is only traditional commitment, such as fasting, praying, and observing Islamic modest dress. Sometimes I feel embarrassed about my lack of religious information. Would you be kind enough to explain some matters to me? I am ready to answer all your questions. Consider me as your sister, since we share the same beliefs. Now, what do you want to ask me? Why has a drawing of a brain been chosen for the cover of the book? You know that the brain is the most important part of the human body. It is the organ which controls the entire body, including the nerves and the cells. Every cell obeys the brain, which, though small, contains thousands of millions of nerve cells. How amazing! Exclaimed Warqa. Dr. Miad continued, You know that every cell has its own function, but at the same time it cooperates with other cells. If some cells are damaged, the result will be bad. I never imagined that the brain was such a delicate structure. Dr. Miad noted, A scientist lectured about the brain in 1957 and said that if all the world's telephones, telegraphs, radar systems, and televisions were made into a small, complicated device, it would not be as complex as the brain. How wonderful for one to have such a marvelous apparatus in one's head, but what a pity it is that we know so little about our bodies. It may take a long time to discuss the human body. You know that the nervous system has a twofold function, voluntary and involuntary. The nervous system controls the body's muscles, the hands, the feet, the tongue, etc. Of course, some organs function automatically, such as the lungs, the heart, the stomach, and so on. Here, the wisdom of our Creator becomes manifest. If they functioned at the will of a creature, it would be impossible for him to motivate and monitor the processes of these organs all the time, even during sleep. Thus they would cease to function. The same can be said to the organs which function voluntarily. If they functioned automatically, a human being would go on, for example, talking and talking all his life. Warqa was very interested in the discussion and listened attentively. The doctor suggested that she read the whole book and told her that she would learn much more about the body's secrets. In fact, Warqa wasn't very enthusiastic about reading, but Dr. Miad said, Hearing isn't enough. One should depend on one's brain to comprehend matters. If one listens more than one reads, then one will depend on others for knowledge. Warqa's grandmother awoke, and both women approached her. Dr. Miad asked how she felt. She smiled and thanked the doctor for her help, saying, I prayed for you. You have been kind to Warqa. I shall always remember that. Dr. Miad said, Oh, I have done nothing. I pray that you'll have a long life. What is your name, my dear? She asked. Miad. That's a nice name. What's your family name? Asked the grandmother. The doctor didn't reply, but said, I will see you every day until you fully recover, which will be soon, God willing, with Warqa's help. Dr. Miad left, and Warqa kept the book to read. The two young women's friendship grew stronger as time passed, and Warqa continued to ask the doctor about ideological questions. Then all of a sudden, the doctor stopped visiting her elderly patient. After 3 days, Warqa asked another doctor about Dr. Miad. She told her that Dr. Miad was ill. Warqa asked if she was at home, but the doctor told her that Dr. Miad was in that same hospital. Warqa learned from a nurse that her friend was in room number 7. Is her illness serious? Warqa asked. She has influenza, the nurse replied. The doctor advised her to remain in bed for a few days. Warka made arrangements for the nurse to stay in her grandmother's room after 12 o'clock noon so that she could visit Dr. Miad. Warka thanked the nurse and went to room 7. When she knocked, she was surprised to see a young man open the door. She asked hesitantly, "How is Dr. Miad?" The young man said, "Come in, she is awake." Warka entered the room, anxious to see her friend, who smiled and said, "I am all right. How is your grandmother?" "She's fine. She sends her regards and wishes you a speedy recovery." As she sat down near the bed, Warka noticed that Dr. Miad's face and neck were flushed. It was the first time she had seen the doctor without her headscarf on. Warka wanted to stay, but she thought about her grandmother and soon arose. Dr. Miad sensed her uneasiness, saying, "You mustn't leave your grandmother alone for long." "But I don't want to leave you alone either." "I'm not alone. My brother is here." "When you leave, please tell him to come in." Where will I find him?" asked Warka. "He will be in the reading room. His name is Sinad. He was the man who opened the door for you." Warka said, "Oh, I thought he was a stranger, a doctor." Dr. Miad said, "He's a doctor, but he's also my brother. Otherwise I wouldn't have allowed him to see me without a scarf on." "I never thought of that. He left the room so that you would be at ease," Dr. Miad remarked. Warka wished her friend good health and said goodbye. She saw Dr. Miad's brother near the room and didn't speak to him, since he had seen her leave. She hurried to her grandmother, who was still sleeping. When she awoke, she asked Warka about the doctor, and Warka said that she was very ill. "Is she alone?" asked Warka's grandmother. "No, her brother is with her, although he left the room when I entered." "He seems polite," her grandmother remarked. The following morning, Warka visited Dr. Miad and saw that she was feeling better. The doctor appreciated Warka's visits. When Warka expressed concern about her friend's health, Dr. Miad said that she seemed upset. "Oh, that's to be expected. You are right. A lot of processes take place in the body when it is in such a state." "What processes?" "There is a network of nerves in the body. It carries impulses between the brain and all of the different parts of the body. Hence, sensations like cold, heat, and pain are received through the nerves. There are millions of nerve cells carrying out this job." "How do they function?" asked Warka. "The brain is the center of the nervous system. It controls all of the muscles and organs. Thus, when we touch something hot, the hand is withdrawn very quickly. We may not think about such actions, but what the Creator has planned is really a source of wonder." Dr. Miad continued to speak. Warka enjoyed listening to her simple explanations and wished she could stay longer, but she didn't want to tire the doctor. Warka said, "Your words are so interesting, and I am in need of religious knowledge, especially about the great Creator, since I lack such information. I can't answer the questions of skeptical people. At first I planned to attend medical college, but my exam results weren't good enough." "My religious knowledge has nothing to do with the college," Dr. Miad told her. "In fact, I knew many things before I went to the university." "That's wonderful. You knew about your religion early on." "Yes. From early childhood my brother encouraged me to read. He helped me to understand many difficult matters." "Which of your brothers helped you?" "I only have one brother. He always took care of me when I was sick. He's everything to me." "May Allah protect you both," Warka said. Dr. Miad added, "He has not gone to his clinic because of me. He stays near me when I am sick." "I thought he worked here." "No, he has his own clinic." Warka looked at her watch. She felt that she had stayed long enough and that her grandmother might be in need of her. She got up saying, "I'm sorry to leave you again. I must take care of my grandmother." "Don't worry, my dear, my brother will soon come." "Then I will see you tomorrow," said Warka. "Please do come. I may trouble you with my questions." "Not at all. I will be happy to see you whenever you come." When Warka visited her friends the next day, she asked about her health and when she would begin work again. "I feel fine except for some pain near my spleen. I am waiting for my laboratory results." Warka said, "I hope nothing is wrong with your spleen, although I think this organ is not very important." Dr. Miad smiled and said, "On the contrary, it is very important. Every organ God has created has its own importance. The spleen is similar to a movable graveyard, really. It receives the dead red blood cells, which usually die after 2 months. It's interesting to see the iron particles carry dead cells for burial and return to produce new ones." "Do the iron particles produce red cells?" "No," said Dr. Miad, "but it is helpful in their manufacture. The main process involved in making the red and even the white blood cells take place in the bone marrow, so you can see what a wonderful factory there is inside the human body. Each organ has its own special function." "Please continue," urged Warka. "The cardiac system exchanges the gases through the circulation of blood. Oxygen is carried to the tissue of blood and on the way to the heart. Remnants of burnt-out tissues are transported in the place of oxygen." "You mean that the blood's circulation helps the digestive system?" "Yes, that's what I mean," replied Dr. Miad. "The respiratory system helps as well. We breathe as long as we are alive, yet we never think about the Creator's design of our breathing apparatus. The necessary gas, oxygen, is provided and carbon dioxide is removed. Hence, our blood is purified and whatever substance is useless is discarded. It is the delicate design of Allah. Consider the digestive system. We eat and drink whatever we like, but we forget that merciful Allah has given us the organs which make use of starches, proteins, fats, minerals, water, and vitamins. These organs remove the unwanted waste products from the body." Warka then asked, "What about the liver?" "The liver is a large reddish-brown organ which secretes bile and purifies the blood. It is similar to a defense front." Dr. Miad hesitated, giving Warka time to think. Then she asked how her grandmother was. Warka replied that she was much better and that was why she was able to leave her for a while. Her grandmother wanted Warka to go back and attend her college lectures from the coming week, but Warka had not yet made up her mind about it. Dr. Miad said, "You have been absent from your studies for a long time. You should return to them. I will be near her while you are away." "Poor grandma," said Warka. "She has tried hard to give me a comfortable life. She loves me very much, but I feel so lonely since I am her only granddaughter. For son, my father died when I was 1 year old, and my mother died shortly after my birth. Neither of us has a sister. Let's be sisters to each other." Warka's face brightened as she asked, "Will you have me as your sister?" "With great pleasure," the doctor replied. "That's settled then. I wanted you to read this book." She held out a book entitled Perfection in Islam towards Warka, who took it and said goodbye. 2 days later, Dr. Miad had recovered and was once again on duty, and she made a point to visit Warka's grandmother every day while Warka was at college. Warka read the religious book and asked her friend for another volume. She really wanted to understand what she had read, and spent many hours at the hospital, reading and discussing various questions with Dr. Miad. Warka was greatly influenced by the doctor and longed to be with her always. One day she asked the doctor, "Is it true that the body's cells change?" "Yes, everything. The cells, the blood, the fat, the proteins, Even the nerve cells are changed. Basically, the complete body structure is renewed and replaced every 10 years. Warka commented, even the nerve cells? Does that mean a person could forget his previous knowledge and memories? This is one of the mysteries of creation. And because of this, we can understand that memory is not matter, and that it cannot be explained. It is a spiritual phenomenon with no physical characteristics. If it was matter attached to the nerve cell, then one would forget everything with the passage of time. One would have to relearn everything again and again. Even one's name and one's father's name. The average human being gathers nearly 500,000 pictures in his memory each day. Thus, tens of billions of images are stored in his memory during his lifetime, in addition to other information received through the other senses. Warka was listening attentively and said, "What an enormous number! It's difficult to believe." It's an enormous amount. Some scientists say that the memory can hold enough information to fill 9 million volumes. Consider how great is the wisdom of the Creator. Then Warka asked, with such facts, can't we prove the existence of Almighty Allah to unbelievers? It can be, said Dr. Miad, but some may even deny the existence of the universe. They deny such a reality and think that everything is an illusion. Who are these people? They are those who deny the Creator, the universe, and themselves. They doubt the existence of everything and try to persuade others to consider everything as merely a dream or as their imagination. In any case, we can refute their claims by ascertaining whether or not they are sure of such claims. Of course, they're sure, Warka commented. If they're sure, then they profess certainty in some matters, which is in contrast to their claims of doubt. This then devalues their doctrine of belief. That's quite true, said Warka. Please continue. Dr. Miad said, we can ask them whether they consider our profession of faith to be in opposition to theirs or not. If they agree that there is a contradiction, then they must also agree that these opposites cannot meet. This is a fact which cannot be doubted, and therefore it follows that certain statements cannot be denied. If they say that there is no such impossibility, the two parties may be right, then those who believe in the Creator can also be right. That's logical, said Warka. There are other proofs which we can discuss later, when we meet again, God willing. Warka said, I know you are very busy, but I'm really looking forward to our next chat, which will be on the day after tomorrow, said the doctor. Meanwhile, you can read this book. Warka took the book and left. She read the book carefully and thought seriously about it. At their next meeting, Warka was ready to listen to her friend. She welcomed her warmly, and they sat close together to continue their discussion. Dr. Miad began, Those who doubt the existence of everything should be asked to prove their doubt. If they cannot, then their claims are groundless. But suppose they can, said Warka. If they say they can, then they should be asked if there is a relationship between the proof and its outcome. If there is no relationship, then it is of no value. But if they claim there is, then they must believe in a cause that brought about such a result. Thus, there is a law of cause and effect. Warka noted. They may reject such a law. They must have evidence to do so, said Dr. Miad. Otherwise, their claim is groundless. If they can produce evidence, then they are confessing to the law of cause and effect. I should take notes, said Warka. That's a good idea, agreed Dr. Miad. You won't forget various points. Warka stopped writing and looked at her friend, waiting for more information. However, Dr. Miad said, Now it's your turn to help me. I am ready? How? Asked Warka. It's about my brother, Sinet, and I'm thinking about a wife for him. How can I assist you in this matter? Well, said Dr. Miad. "You know that my brother is very dear to me. He is a good believer and is well-mannered. He is loving, compassionate, and calm. I want to help him find a good wife, and I have recently found someone." "Thank God for that," said Warka. Dr. Miad continued, "However, I would like to know whether both sides would be happy with such an agreement. I want to persuade the girl. Can you help?" "How?" Dr. Miad explained. "You persuade her to marry him. She can trust me with regard to his righteousness." "But who is she?" asked Warka. "Where can I find her?" "Can't you guess?" asked the doctor with a smile. "She is very close to you." Warka blushed, cast her glance down, and remained silent. Dr. Miad continued, "You have guessed. Why don't you answer? Haven't we already agreed to be as sisters? Don't you trust me? Believe me, I care a lot about your future, just as I care for my brother's. I have thought carefully about the matter, and I am sure that it is right for both of you. You can ask whoever you like about his character." Warka said shyly, "I am sure of your good intentions. I am just taken by surprise, as I never thought about this before. I must speak with my grandmother." "The important thing is that you are convinced," Dr. Miad stressed. Warka wanted to say yes, but she thought it would be better to think the matter over. "Please give me some time to think about this," she said. "Of course. You have the right to think and then decide. But when can I have the answer?" "Within a few days," said Warka. "All right, my dear. I hope your decision is for your own good." Warka smiled and said, "I have never thought about my own affairs. My grandmother has made me depend on her for everything." Dr. Miad told her, "You should think for yourself with regard to your future." "Yes, I will make my own decision. In any case, knowledge is gained through experience." "That is not always the right criteria," said Dr. Miad. "Why not?" "This is what the experimentalists claim. They don't believe in any fact without experimenting, even though they ignore the fact that their doctrine indicates the possibility of believing in matters without the least experiment." Surprised, Warka said, "Please explain more. We have a female lecturer at our school who always insists on this subject." "I will let you tomorrow," Dr. Miad replied. "Now it is time for me to check on my patients, so I will see you later." Warka sat thinking of her friend's proposal. She asked herself happily, "Should I agree and become her brother's wife? Will he help me understand Islam and lead me to the right path? How lucky I am!" She almost scolded herself for not agreeing immediately, as no obstacle stood in the way. She spent some time daydreaming, and then her grandmother awoke. Warka assisted her, and then she sat down, anxious to tell her the happy news. She began by saying, "Dr. Miad has been here. She just left." "Oh," said her grandmother indifferently. "She has something special to ask me." "What was that?" asked the grandmother. "A marriage proposal." Warka's grandmother looked annoyed and said, "What does it have to do with you?" "It concerns her brother." "What relationship is there between you and her brother?" said her grandmother angrily. Amazed at her anger, Warka said, "She wants me to marry him." "What was your answer?" Warka was confused by her attitude and told her, "I postponed the answer until I could consult you." Her grandmother turned her face away and said, "No, this marriage must not take place." "But why not, Grandma?" Her grandmother did not answer her, so Warka insisted, "Why shouldn't it? Please tell me why you disapprove, because I'm convinced that I should accept this proposal." Still her grandmother didn't speak. "Why don't you talk to me? Perhaps you are mistaken," said Warka. "I am not mistaken," said her grandmother. "I know what I am saying, and you must give up this idea. It will not happen, so do not mention it again." Warka was silent for a moment and then said, "Don't I have the right to know why? It is not easy for me to decide without knowing the reason for your refusal." "Of course, you have the right to know. Are you ready to hear?" Warka nodded and her grandmother said, "However, after hearing what I have to say, you must end your relationship with Dr. Miad." Warka was shocked at the idea and said, "But why? She is my best friend." "Then don't insist upon knowing the reason." After a moment, Warka agreed, "All right. I am ready to hear what you have to say. When you were a child, your father died, as you know, but you never learned how he died. He had a good friend, and they decided to go into business together. They opened a workshop making unbreakable plates. He was happy and optimistic about the business, but did not have the necessary funds. Because of his experience, your father's friend was to provide the technical skill. In order to raise the money for the project, your father had to sell half of the fertile land that he owned. However, the half was less than that officially approved for selling. So the landlord, Mr. Hamid, bought that half on the condition that the whole area be registered in his name. He was to give us half of the produce of the land, while your father retained the right to buy it back when the debt was repaid. The land could not be sold to anyone else, because it was in Mr. Hamid's name. The money was not sufficient for the workshop, and your father mortgaged his house on the condition that Mr. Hamid would get half of the land's produce. Your father and his friend became the night watchman for the factory. One morning I went to the factory when I saw a crowd of people at the entrance and a police car was parked there also. I entered the building and to my surprise and horror, your father lay on the floor, dying. I rushed to his side. His partner was crying crocodile tears. I bent over your father to talk to him, but he did not speak. He was taken to the hospital, and on the way he opened his eyes, looked at me and said the name of his murderer, Abdul Majid Muhammad Raji'i, Dr. Miad's father. Shocked and dismayed, Warka cried out, "Oh no! It could not be her father!" Yes, her father. I was one of the witnesses in court, but one witness was not enough proof. He proved to the court that he was not at the factory at any time that day that the murder occurred. He lied and cheated often. The crime was recorded as a robbery. Was anything stolen? Yes, of course, her grandmother replied. Money and important documents were taken from a safe. So, we lost the land and the right to buy it back, as well as the ownership of the house. Mr. Hamid managed to produce papers proving his ownership of the property, but we could not get it back. With regards to the house, Mr. Hamid has been patient and understanding all these years. He has an aim, but only God knows what it is. I knew that Abdul Majid had twins, a boy and a girl. That is why I asked the doctor what her father's name was. She ignored my question. I asked the nurse what Dr. Miad's father's name was, and she told me. Now, are you ready to marry the son of the man who murdered your father? Warka bitterly replied, I won't marry him, but I will remain friends with Dr. Miad. She cried quietly and thought about her friend. She spent a very sad day thinking about all she had heard. She said to herself, what is their guilt in their father's crime? If their father was a criminal, why should they pay for his misdeed? What can I say to Dr. Miad? How can I explain my refusal of her brother's proposal? Should I tell her the truth? Perhaps they know nothing about this matter. How can I explain it to them? She remembered that she was to meet Dr. Miad the following day. She felt that if she lost the doctor's friendship, it would be a great loss. Warka spent a sleepless night. The next morning she visited her grandmother, who was planning to leave the hospital the same day. Without the doctor's permission, Warka could not make her change her mind. She searched for Dr. Miad, but to no avail. Dr. Miad was on 24-hour leave. Warka could not leave without saying goodbye to her dear friend, so she decided to write a letter to her to express her gratitude. She wrote, "Dear Dr. Miad, I don't know what to tell you. I am facing a dilemma, and I can find no solution. My grandmother insists on leaving today, so there is no chance to see you. It is as if Almighty Allah has deprived me of His paradise. I am very sad and broken-hearted about my sudden departure. May Allah help me. Please don't be angry about my behavior. I have been forced to act thusly. As for your brother, I hope he will find someone better to be his wife. I have no particular reason for refusing him. It is just Allah's will. If you still think of me as a sister, please write to me. Your sincere sister, Warka." Warka gave the letter to a nurse and begged her to give it to Dr. Miad. Then she left the hospital with her grandmother. The days dragged on. Since her grandmother was not completely well, Warka had to look after her in addition to attending to her college studies. She was sad and anxious to hear from Dr. Miad. Her grandmother sometimes saw tears in Warka's eyes, but she never asked about them. A week passed, and a letter arrived from the doctor which said, "Dear Warka, Assalamu alaikum. I was very stunned by your letter. Now that the shock is over, I am writing to you. It was hard for me to see you without a goodbye. I cannot give up your friendship so easily. You are like a sweet-smelling flower that should fill the spring air with its beautiful scent. If such a flower lacks the hand which waters it and the shade, which keeps away the sun's rays, it may not blossom and may fade away before it fulfills its role in life. I feel a spiritual pull towards someone who needs my help. It is my duty to respond, and I am ready to help. You have indeed become a sister to me, and you have brought me happiness. I wanted you to become my brother's wife, but suddenly, without any warning, you disappeared and left only a few written lines. The shock was too great to tolerate, so it took me some time to answer your letter. I thought the matter over and found I must strengthen our friendship. You should know that I am still your loving sister. I won't ask for an explanation for fear it may hurt you. You are so dear to me. Please keep writing to me at the hospital address. May Allah keep you well and safe. Miad." Warka felt a little happier after reading the letter. She decided not to tell her grandmother about the letter. That night, she wrote to her friend, "Dr. Miad, God only knows how I long to see you and how sorry I am about the situation. I have indeed been thirsty and in need of water. I found a spring to give me water as it was you. Then time's cruel hand denied me water. I am again suffering from terrible loneliness, though I have always needed someone who would value my feelings, someone I can talk openly to and confide in. You can lead me on the right path and allow me to rest under his shade. When I first saw you, I thought of you as the real sister of my dreams. I loved you and felt at ease with you. I really appreciated your friendship. Then life changed the game, and I was deprived of you. I am again sad and lonely. Life is unkind to me. It takes whatever is dear to me, and this war has no truce. I suffered so until I received your letter this morning. It gave me hope again. You drew me towards yourself, and then to my Creator. Hence, it is difficult to keep away from you. I rejoiced at your letter and learned another lesson of sacrifice and unselfishness, a practical stance which pays no heed to personal gain. I thank God first And then you, dear sister. I am still ready to meet with you at any time and anywhere that you suggest. Your sister forever, Warka. Warka posted the letter the following day and waited for Miyad to fix a date for the next meeting. A letter soon arrived and Warka planned to meet her friend at the hospital the next day. Warka told her grandmother she would be late in coming home and she went to the hospital directly from college. She waited a moment to calm down and then knocked on the doctor's door. Dr. Miyad met her with a bright face and Warka felt like crying. The doctor said, "Welcome, dear. I have missed you very much, as if I had lived with you all my life. I have also suffered a lot. God knows how worried I was you might be angry at me." "Why should I?" asked Dr. Miyad. "You are free to make your own choice. Perhaps you think that my brother is not good enough for you." "Please don't say that. What happened was not my own decision. I was satisfied with what you told me about him." "What then?" "It was my grandmother," Warka confessed. "Has she given a reason?" Warka became confused and remained silent. But the doctor repeated her question and Warka told her, "There is a reason." "A good enough reason for your refusal?" "Yes." "Then I won't insist on discussing it further. Let us keep our friendship," said Dr. Miyad. "Yes, please. I feel quite at ease with you. I was very upset these past few days. I have many girlfriends, but you are the most trustworthy one. I have had difficult times, but never one such as giving up your friendship." "Forget it and be sure of our friendship," said Dr. Miyad reassuringly. "Now, we must continue our discussion," said Warka. "You promised to explain the relationship between empiricists and science." "What do you know about empiricists?" asked the doctor. "They rely on observation and experiments, not on theory. They deny the role of brain and rational reasoning. Every issue should be proved through experimenting." "Right," said Dr. Miyad. "So we shall refer to this fact in our arguments. If a piece of iron is kept near fire, it expands, so the general rule is that fire causes the expansion of metals. This is accepted through observation of iron, but the general rule is the metal calculation. The brain produces such knowledge." "It is quite interesting," noted Warka. Dr. Miyad continued. "There is something else, the thesis and antithesis doctrine. Opponents never agree. This is a basic fact in mathematics, and without it this science would be nullified." "What do you mean?" "I mean that we cannot say that the water in this glass, for example, is both hot and cold. It is either hot or cold. We cannot say that the sun is both bright and dark at the same time, or that something is long and short." "What does this have to do with mathematics?" "For instance, we say that 1 plus 1 equals 2. A basic fact in this science. We cannot say 1 plus 1 equals 3. It is in contradiction with the symbol meaning equal to. It is a well-known fact, so the empiricist either believes it or doesn't. If he does, is it from experimenting? So, it is impossible to bring opposites together." "Yes," said Dr. Miyad. "Such a result is the outcome of rational reasoning, which needs no experiment." Warka then said, "It may be the result of long experience. Opposites in the universe cannot be found together. Such a thing may indicate the non-existence of opposites being together, not the probability of such an occurrence. Such a thing can never be the result of experimentation." "What if they believe in its possibility?" asked Warka. "Then they might abolish the most important science, mathematics." Dr. Miyad was silent for several minutes to give Warka time to think about the discussion. Warka was interested in the subject and had listened attentively. She said, "I was in need of such information and I still need more." "When will you come again, then?" asked Dr. Miad. "I will come as soon as I get the chance. Now I should go home. My grandmother might be worried." Warka visited Dr. Miad from time to time. One day she arrived home late and found that her grandmother was angry and demanded to know where she had been. Warka guessed that her grandmother knew of her visits to Dr. Miad and waited for her to say no. "Why are you asking me, Grandma?" she inquired. "Have you come directly from college?" Warka did not lie, but simply replied no. "From the hospital," said Warka. "I know that you see Dr. Miad often," said her grandmother angrily. "Admit it. I thought you were wise enough not to meet with the daughter of your father's murderer." Warka said quietly, "How did you guess?" "I asked your friends." "What's wrong with that? I refused the proposal of her brother, but I won't give up her friendship. I need a sister, and there is nothing wrong with that." "You are not interested in the girl, but in her brother, who is an attractive gentleman," her grandmother remarked. "This is not fair!" cried Warka. "I have only seen him twice, quite by chance. I beg you to stop imagining things." The next day Miad waited for Warka to come, and when she saw her she noticed how pale Warka looked. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Nothing. I was up last night. Please continue with your talk. You are in a hurry, it seems. Has anything happened?" "No, nothing," Warka replied. Dr. Miad began. "The empiricists don't even believe in authenticated matters." "What are authenticated matters?" asked Warka. "Matters which are true beyond a doubt. In fact, any authentic fact needs a preceding fact and so on until we come to a starting point. Otherwise, we can't receive any kind of knowledge." "How is that?" "Suppose you want to become acquainted with a particular girl, and you want to know about her conduct. Where will you get such information?" "I would ask her friends," said Warka. "You may contact a friend of hers indirectly through someone else. It is logical that your inquiry might end with someone you know. This is the starting point." "Quite right," Warka admitted. "This is the case with authenticated matters. There should be a starting point well known with the least experimenting." Warka then asked, "Can you give me an example? For instance, if we say that a part of a book is smaller than the whole, someone might say, 'How do you know?' This is quite simple. Since we refer to a part, surely there must be a whole." "If simple facts need no experiments, since the brain comprehends, then," Warka asked, "then why can't a person learn these facts at an early age? Why can't they be retained until old age?" Dr. Miad explained, "There are two types of mental faculties: reasoning, comprehension, and imaginary comprehension. We can perceive such things as water, flowers, gold, and so on, through our senses. And we can imagine unreal objects, such as a sea of milk or a mountain of mercury," added Warka. "Here comes the perceived information through the power of the senses. But again, we depend on previously received information. We cannot say, for example, there is a date palm without imagining the date tree first. It depends on imaginative perception. This is why a child cannot comprehend authentic information. He cannot imagine the actual thing." "It is so interesting to listen to you, but I am afraid I cannot stay any longer," said Warka. "We can continue tomorrow," the doctor said. Warka said goodbye and left. When she reached home, her grandmother was quite upset. Warka kissed her and said, "Please don't be angry at my seeing Dr. Miad. I will obey all your other wishes." Then her grandmother asked, "You will obey me in other matters?" Yes, except with regard to Dr. Miad. Will you swear to that? Asked her grandmother. Warka was about to swear that she would when something stopped her. I won't swear, but I do promise that is sufficient. You will keep your word of honor, won't you? Asked her grandmother. I will do that, said Warka. Her grandmother's face brightened, and she kissed her granddaughter with an easy mind. She told herself, she has promised to obey me. I am sure she will accept her cousin's proposal. Poor man, I was the cause of the delay until now. I was waiting for Warka to finish her studies, but he has again expressed his wish to marry her. He is rich and educated. Even though he is not religious, she can guide him to the right path. When she marries, she will have no time to see Dr. Miad. The next afternoon, Warka attended some lectures and went to see Dr. Miad again. The doctor was waiting for her at the hospital door, and she greeted her, saying, "We shall go home together. I have some work to do." "Whose home?" "My home, of course," said Dr. Miad. "Will anyone else be there?" asked Warka. "No one. Be sure of that. We will leave before sunset." "As you like," Warka agreed. "It is not far. We can walk." They soon reached the doctor's home, and she unlocked the door. It was a small home with a tidy little garden. The house furniture was simple, but in a good taste. Warka asked, "Who cleans your home for you?" "I come here twice a week," said the doctor. "I usually clean it myself and arrange it for my brother." "Does he live alone?" Warka asked. "Yes, I am his only sister. We are alone in the world." Warka felt sorry for them. She knew that the doctor was lonely but tried to conceal it. Warka was deep in thought when the doctor said, "What is the matter? Won't you give me a hand?" Warka was happy to help her friend. When they finished their work, they sat in the shade of a tree. Warka was looking at a small orange tree in front of her, and Dr. Miad said, "I planted that tree, and I am very happy that it is bearing fruit." "It is nice to see plants grow, flourish, and bear fruit," Warka commented. "But how sad it is to see such trees uprooted by a wicked hand or a strong storm." "Oh yes," agreed Warka. "But I want to ask a question. Is it you or the seed that caused the plant to grow?" Dr. Miad answered, "Neither I nor the seed. Almighty Allah has done it. We are only means created by Him. He created the whole universe and caused all things to come into existence. How wise our Creator is! I don't know how some people can deny His existence and relate existence to cause other than Him, such as materialists who claim that the unceasing motion of matter has made all creatures. Such people, if they think rationally, will confess that Allah has designed all life. Sometimes they agree with us on the rudiments of a subject, but they differ at the outcome," said Dr. Miad. "In what ways do they agree?" "They, too, agree that we have not come from nothing, that there is an everlasting one who created life, one who is the owner of the things that He bestows upon us. What we have cannot have come from nothing. These are matters they agree with us upon." "What do we believers say?" Warka said. "We say Allah is the Creator." The materialists claim that the everlasting motion of matter is the cause of life. One could ask them, when did it start to create countless living creatures? If it is everlasting, how then can it have a beginning? "They cannot answer that," said Warka. Dr. Miad continued, "Science says that the Earth separated from the Sun billions of years ago, and that it took 1 billion years for the Earth's surface to cool. That means that life on the Earth had a beginning," noted Warka. "Yes, such scientific facts are indisputable. Thus, if motion is everlasting, then creation must be everlasting. Otherwise, scientists could not have calculated the age of this planet, Warka added. The fact cannot be denied, but if the materialists confess that motion is not everlasting, it must be something separate from, and hence added to matter. Then we can ask, who has created motion? How could it create when it itself was created? How can they claim motion is the source of creation? Warka asked. Suppose they say that motion is everlasting and that matter designated the time of creation. This is unacceptable, said Dr. Miad. For creation is a process. The result of great wisdom, substance is not. How can a person prove that matter lacks intelligence? Science has proved that it is comprised of electrical charges, said the doctor. Hence, it cannot think or comprehend. According to our belief, it is under some influence which causes its motion and existence. Warka suggested they might say that the beginning of creation was postponed in order to prepare the rudiments, like a traveler who begins his journey 4 hours later than he intended. Maybe the matter needed time in order to create life. What prevented it from starting earlier? Asked Dr. Miad. Well, like the traveler was delayed because he needed time to prepare for the journey, so life came into existence after billions of years, said Warka. Dr. Miad replied, the answer suits the traveler, but not in the case of the universe, because it is claimed that time exists through everlasting motion. Such answers could be true if the universe actually did begin in a manner similar to that of the traveler, which would mean that motion is accidental and that time is limited, an excuse for a late start. Thank you for this explanation. By the way, sometimes I hate time because it moves so quickly, as in the case of our meeting, laughed Warka. I hope you won't be late, said Dr. Miad. Let us leave now. We will come here again sometimes just for a change. When Warka arrived at home, her grandmother met her at the door and said, We have visitors. Go upstairs and get ready, then come down right away. Who are the visitors? Mr. Mahir, a cousin of your parents. What does that have to do with me? Warka asked. He is your cousin too. It makes no difference to me, said Warka. He is a stranger and I don't want to sit and talk with him for no reason. Who said there is no reason? He is a wonderful man, educated, understanding, and rich, said Warka's grandmother. That is enough for you to welcome him, said Warka. Her grandmother took hold of her and said, I won't let you go until you promise to come down. You promised to obey me. Come on now and say salam. That is all, said Warka. She walked into the living room and saw Mr. Mahir and his mother sitting near each other, facing the door. She murmured a few words of welcome as her cousin stood up and asked her to take a seat. Her grandmother said approvingly, Come here and sit by your cousin. Warka did not move, but said politely, I am sorry. I have a lot of homework to do. Excuse me. Goodbye. With that, she left the room, and her grandmother became vexed and the guests confused. Warka ran quickly up the stairs to her room and burst into tears. She did not know how to get out of this difficult situation. She would not accept Mr. Mahir as a husband, since he had loose morals and was not a committed Muslim. It was impossible for her to accept him. She decided to fight the battle, no matter how difficult it might be. An hour later, her grandmother came up to her room. She spoke gently to her, saying, You have not behaved well today. It wasn't right to treat your cousin that way. You were hard on him while he loves and respects you. He only wanted to introduce himself to you. Warka told her, I don't like him. He is not a committed Muslim. You are mistaken, said her grandmother. He is a gentleman and is rich and successful. He has no relatives except his mother. Just imagine, he has 3 private cars. That is exactly why I think he is worthless. What needs would anyone have for 3 cars? Her grandmother ignored Warka and continued. A few months ago, he asked for your hand in marriage. I suggested to him to wait until you finished your studies. Now that you are taking your final exams, he has renewed his request. He is ready to offer a very high dowry, in addition to a special car of your own. Are you serious? Asked Warka. Did you think I might agree to marry him? His wealth and his cars won't tempt me at all to sacrifice my religion." "What does religion have to do with it?" "You know he is not a committed person. He does not even pray." "It isn't for you to judge him. He, too, has a God who will call him to account." "I won't marry such a person, be sure of that," insisted Warka. Her grandmother persisted. "He is very respected. I know he is not a committed person, but he can't harm you. Think it over a while so you won't regret refusing him." "I will never regret it," stressed Warka. "If you don't get the man of your dreams, Warka, what will you do?" "Then I won't marry. Anyway, it is quite possible to marry a man I wish." "You are still a child. You should not reject your cousin's offer from sheer nonsense." Warka smiled bitterly and said, "Why do you think it is nonsense? I refused Sinad because you said his father killed my father. Yet he has done no harm to my father. Mr. Mahir has committed a crime against his creator. He is an infidel who disobeys and disrespects Allah. He mocks the hereafter. My religion is the dearest thing I have, even dearer than my father. How could I live with someone who is my enemy?" Her grandmother was quite annoyed by this time as she said, "You still speak well of Sinad. I know you have rejected Mahir because of him." Warka replied, "I speak well of him because he deserves it. But to say that I have refused Mahir because of him is not true. To me, that is finished. He may be planning to marry someone else for all I know. He is good and trustworthy, although he is the son of your father's murderer. Mahir is your cousin, and so you should consider the matter seriously. You will do your father as well as me a great injustice if you refuse him." Warka did not sleep well that night. The next day she visited Dr. Miad, and she forgot about her troubles for a while. She did not tell her friend about Mahir, but listened carefully to the useful discussion. She asked, "Will you please continue where we left off last time?" Dr. Miad said, "You don't seem to be happy today. I am afraid you won't enjoy the subject." "I will enjoy it," insisted Warka. "I intend to forget my problems by listening to you. The best time for me are when I'm learning something new." "Let us argue with them then," said Dr. Miad. "With whom?" "With the materialists who claim that life was created through the motion of matter, which is everlasting. We can ask them to explain the different stages of that matter and the different outcomes, while matter has only one simple stage." "What do you mean?" "I mean that through chemical processes and a combination of gases, new substances may result. Through radiation, a compound substance may produce a new one. Hence, we have a chain of elements and minerals that stops at a certain stage." "Why does it stop?" asked Warka. "Well, this is the question we must answer. They claim that development is the result of a conflict between the original direction and its opposite, or through unification. For instance, through just such a process, hydrogen combines with other gases to produce various compounds. But the amazing thing is, why doesn't all the hydrogen combine and disappear in the process? Here we come to know that there is an everlasting, wise power that designed everything. Science has proved that electricity is merely negative and positive charges. Therefore, it is not an intelligent source of power. It can't have created such a mighty universe as this." Warka's silence prompted the doctor to ask her if anything was wrong. "Nothing at all," replied Warka. "I hope you will always be strong," Dr. Miad said. "With the help of Allah, I will. I feel better when I talk with you. It makes me strong." "But you are pale," said the doctor. "I will give you some pills. Dissolve one in a cup of water and drink it once a day." "Oh, I should remember that you are a physician. I think of you as a psychiatrist," Warka said. "I am prouder of this than being a doctor." "It is time to leave," said Warka. "I can't come tomorrow. I have lessons in the afternoon, so I will see you the day after tomorrow, God willing. You will find me waiting for you." Warka's grandmother did not discuss the subject of marriage that day. Warka was low-spirited and tired, so she went to bed early. The next morning she got ready and left for college. At the bus stop, An expensive car stopped near her, and Mr. Mahir got out of the car and came up to her. "Good morning, Warka," he said. "It is good to see you. Can I give you a lift?" "No, thank you, Mr. Mahir." Warka declined. "Come on, get in. Are you waiting for anyone?" "I am waiting for the bus," Warka said. "How strange," Mr. Mahir remarked. "You are waiting for a bus and refuse a ride in a car?" His words increased her contempt for him, and Warka turned her head away, saying, "Please don't trouble yourself. I won't get in your car." "There is no trouble in giving you a lift," he persisted. "It would be a pleasure for me. Consider the car as being yours and get in." At that moment, the bus arrived and Warka boarded it. She left Mahir bewildered by her behavior. When Warka saw Dr. Miad the following day, she felt uncomfortable and was in poor spirits. She found her friend busy cleaning the house and she tried to help the doctor, but Dr. Miad noticed her discomfort and begged Warka to rest on a seat in the garden when she sat looking dejected and depressed. "What is the matter with you?" Dr. Miad asked. "I'm upset," Warka replied. "That is obvious, but you should not take anything too seriously. Be strong." "I am strong, but some disappointments make me tired. A cousin of my parents has recently asked me to marry him and my grandmother approves of him, since she says he is rich, young and educated." "Is he a good Muslim?" asked Dr. Miad. "No, he is not. That is why I am upset. I have refused him, but my grandmother never stops bringing up the issue. He is trying to impose himself on me, and I feel as if I am at battle." "With whom?" "With my grandmother and her displeasure." "I feared it was a war within yourself," said Dr. Miad. "No, the matter is quite clear to me," Warka said. "I hope so. It is better to face such a situation now than to have to tolerate it permanently," Dr. Miad noted. "Do you mean as a result of marrying an unbeliever?" "Yes, of course. Such a marriage could affect both your life now and in the hereafter. I only wish I could make my grandmother see my point of view." Dr. Miad said she would not accept it. She believes in her own view. You should try gently to make her give up the idea. "But she is so determined," Warka replied. "She won't give up, but I will continue to resist." "Why does she insist so? How will she benefit from such a marriage?" asked Dr. Miad. Warka did not answer her. She thought her grandmother's reason was to keep her away from her friend Miad, but she could not mention it. To change the subject, Warka said, "Yes, there is a reason for everything. That is why those who deny the existence of the Creator claim that matter created itself." Dr. Miad said, "Yet they sometimes agree eventually with those who believe in Almighty Allah." "How's that?" "Both parties believe that the universe has been created, which means that there is some influential power behind it. They also agree that the universe is a reality, which is in contrast with what idealists believe that is a dream or an illusion. They both also believe human life depends on this power which caused life to exist. However, both sides differ with regard to the nature of this power." "Do materialists admit such a belief in their literature?" asked Warka. "Yes," said the doctor. "In some of their books on religion they say, in fact, we must confess that we know nothing about the origin of the universe." "Is this common knowledge among them?" "Yes, the materialists claim that matter and its motion are behind creation, while we believe that Almighty Allah is," said Dr. Miad. "Matter can't last forever, since it can change," said Warka. "The eternal, the everlasting does not change." "That is right. Mutable things must have a beginning and an end," said Dr. Miad. Warka continued, "Physics has proved that the atom is made up of an electron and a proton, and that it can be split to produce energy. Hence matter is not everlasting, it is a compound." "For argument's sake," said Dr. Miad, "we can ask the materialists how the first compound came into existence. Was it everlasting originally, or did its components come first?" "One might say that its components came first," suggested Warka. "In that case, there must have been a reason which caused its existence." Warka then said, suppose one says that the parts and the whole existed simultaneously. Then we must ask if these parts can be separated either by transformation or development, such as the chemical processes which break water down into oxygen and hydrogen. It is quite possible for a compound to dissolve and vanish, so it can't be everlasting. The everlasting cannot be affected. Whatsoever depends upon a cause may disappear, as in the case of the atom, concluded Dr. Miad. Science has also recently proved that there is a continuous change in heat energy, which proves that the universe is not everlasting, said Warka. Dr. Miad commented, yes, this change in temperature proves such facts. Had the temperature remained the same, the whole universe would have suffered the same degree of heat for ages. Life would thus have been impossible. Warka then said, through various calculations, science has proved that the universe is expanding and that it is not everlasting. Otherwise, the planets would have been separated by unlimited spaces. Dr. Miad ended the conversation by adding, the universe has been created by an everlasting power, Almighty Allah. Warka glanced at her watch and said, I'm sorry, I have to leave now. I won't see you for a week. I will be preparing for the final exams. I wish you success. I will be waiting for you the following week, God willing. That week Warka was quite busy with her studies. She thought only of her finals, and she even forgot all about Mr. Maher. She passed her exams successfully, and at the end of the week she went to see Dr. Miad, but could not find her, so she left a note saying that she would see her the next afternoon. Warka returned home to find her grandmother happy that she had finished her studies. She kissed Warka warmly and said, I am still alive to see you become an engineer. I have not got the results yet, Warka said with a smile. I am sure you will succeed. Warka went up to her room and found a large crystal vase filled with beautiful flowers on her table. Next to the vase was a small white box and a note on which was written, to Warka, with much love, Maher. Warka knew that the gift was serious. She went downstairs and asked her grandmother, Who brought this bouquet of flowers for me? Mr. Maher's chauffeur. He said, Mr. Maher and his mother will visit us this evening. Where is this house? Warka asked. Why? I don't know where his new house is. Why do you ask? So I can return his flowers, stated Warka. Her grandmother was shocked and said, You want to return the flowers? Are you crazy? Haven't you seen the precious diamond ring in the box? No, I have not looked at it, and I don't want to. Warka said, You must be mad. If you were sane, you wouldn't do such a thing. He is your cousin and your fiancé. What? What have you said? Who is my fiancé? Demanded Warka. Maher, said her grandmother. Since when? I never agreed to marry him. Her grandmother said, You should think carefully before you reject him. He is an excellent person and would be very good for you. I have made up my mind not to marry him. What is wrong with him? Her grandmother asked angrily. He is not a committed person, Warka said. You can guide him to the right path. What if he never listens? Then you can mind your own business and leave him. You don't have to share his grave, you know. You will enjoy his great wealth and he alone will suffer in hell, her grandmother told her. Then this would not be a marriage, just a business deal for exploitation, no more, no less? Warka objected. What about this gift? All his gifts, cars, property, and other wealth count for nothing, since he lacks religious belief. Give him back his gift and tell him to look for someone else to marry. I won't do that, replied Warka's grandmother. You can do it yourself if you wish to. That evening Maher came alone. Warka's grandmother welcomed him and tried to speak with him alone before Warka came in the room. She began by saying, Thank you so much for the gift you gave Warka, Mr. Maher. Oh, it is nothing. Warka is worth much more. I hope the ring fits. She is still young, Warka's grandmother said with a sigh. She needs to be brought round gradually. How's that? She has refused to try on the ring. She says she is tired from the exams. She must rest. Mahir agreed. I only want her agreement. I have chosen a very expensive set of diamonds to match her beauty. I have come to fix a date for the engagement. Confused, Warka's grandmother said, I will get in touch with you later. I shall persuade her to agree. I am very surprised. Why does she need to be persuaded? It is a good match. It seems she is childish, Mahir said. She is young, but she is also wise and prudent. Thank God, she may have a different point of view, but I will make her change her mind. Suddenly, Warka opened the door and entered the room with a small white box in her hand. Her grandmother was upset and expected a confrontation. Warka greeted her cousin and sat down in a chair by the door. Mahir stood up to welcome her. Warka spoke first. Thank you for the flowers. They were a nice present for my cousin, but I can't accept this one. She held out the box. Mahir was stunned and was at a loss for words. Finally he said, What do you mean? I mean that we are cousins, nothing else. That is enough. But can't I seek a closer relation? Mahir asked. No. Can you tell me why? Have I done anything wrong? Of course not, but it is for our own good. How do you know it is good for me? He then asked. Because I cannot be a real wife for you. There is a barrier that cannot be ignored, so let us just remain cousins. If you think my wealth is a barrier, be sure that it is not important to me, that you are not rich. When you become my wife, all my wealth will be yours. His words annoyed Warka, but she tried to stay calm. She explained, You don't understand me. I was not referring to wealth. Then is it our social standing? We are both engineers. Please, let me finish. Warka said sharply. I am sorry, please go on, said Mahir. What I mean is that religious situation is what makes the real difference. She sat silently for a moment. Mahir coughed to hide his confusion. Warka's grandmother used the opportunity to say, This is unimportant. He won't make you change your commitment. Will you, Mr. Mahir? Seeing a way out, he quickly said, Of course, I won't prevent her from performing her religious duties. If this is her reason, there is no question of it. Warka smiled bitterly and said, In short, I would like you to answer a question. How do you view marriage? Mahir had not expected such a question and he hesitated and then said, A happy life together? You have not really given your opinion. To you, it is just an end in itself. He laughed meaninglessly and asked, How do you view it then? It is for you to answer. Warka's grandmother interrupted. Stop this talk. He is your cousin, and that is enough. Warka turned to her, saying, At least you should understand me, even if he won't. Married life is not a business agreement or a social ritual. It is a mutual life course and a uniting of two spirits and their beliefs. Such unity cannot take place if the points of view of both sides are quite opposed. If we differ ideologically, we can't agree emotionally. This is a serious reason for marriages which fail. I don't wish to suffer in such a marriage. Her grandmother persisted. You can each have your own way of life. Warka said impatiently, That would be a schizophrenic situation. There would be mental disorders in such a life. After marriage, you may come to understand each other, her grandmother pleaded. I don't think so, said Warka. That would require a compromise on both sides, and I am not ready to do so. My religion is very important to me, and it should control my future. Mahir commented, I don't know what religion has got to do with your future. You are an engineer, with or without it. I have my career, though I'm not a committed person. You misunderstand me again. By the future, I mean the afterlife and the hereafter. You have no thought of that life, while I'm quite concerned about it, more than about my future career, which, however long it may be, will still be a limited one. The other life is everlasting. Mahir looked pale, as if her words had affected him. In an attempt to end the dispute, Warka's grandmother turned to her and said, "Go to your room now. We have plenty of time to settle the matter." Warka didn't leave the room, and her grandmother insisted, "Get up and go. No more childish talk." Mahir laughed and said, "She is excused. She has had an unusually complicated life. I hope to give her a long and happy life of openness and freedom. Surely she is under the influence of a bad male or female acquaintance." "You should not say such things. Warka is a good, honest girl, and is well behaved. Warka, go to your room." Warka was vexed, but said nothing. She went upstairs and sat on the edge of her bed waiting for Mahir to leave. Her grandmother tried to apologize for Warka's behavior, which made Mahir determined to win this stubborn girl who refused all of his wealth. He tried to appear patient and kind, saying, "Don't apologize. I have my own ways of getting her to agree. You can phone me if there is any progress." He said goodbye and left. His mind made up that he would either get her or ruin her life by tarnishing her reputation so that no one would marry her. Warka felt better, since she thought she had put an end to the matter. She felt she had won that round of battle, and she was in good spirits the next morning. Her mood surprised her grandmother, who had expected her to be angry about the previous day's discussion. Warka was anxious to see Dr. Miad and tell her the details, but the doctor was busy with an urgent case and Warka returned home. Her grandmother met at the door and whispered, "Go to your room and keep quiet." Surprised, Warka said, "What is the matter?" "Shh! Go up there quickly and don't come down until I call you." Warka went upstairs. She was disturbed. Since she did not know what was upsetting her grandmother, she looked at her watch, which seemed to be standing still. After an hour had passed, Warka heard the front door close and her grandmother called her. Warka went quickly downstairs and found her grandmother sad and pale. Warka was terrified. "Do you know who was just here?" "It was Mr. Hamid, the man who took away our land." "What did he want?" "He wants his right to the mortgaged house. We have no papers to prove we repaid the money, since all the papers were stolen, as I told you. He said he had been waiting until you finished college. Now he wants his money, unless—" She left the sentence unfinished. "Unless what?" asked Warka. "Unless you agree to marry his son. Then he would give us back the land and the house." "What did you tell him?" "Allah helped me give him the right answer. I told him that you are already engaged, so that he would not think about it any more." "How could you do that?" asked Warka. "He will find out it is not true." Her grandmother told her, "Now you must agree to Mahir as soon as possible. In any case, Mahir is much better than the landlord's playboy son." Warka moaned as if in pain and did not speak. After a while she said, "I won't marry Mahir. Let Mr. Hamid take everything. I don't want the land or the house. I will sacrifice all for the sake of my religion." Her grandmother burst into exaggerated cries of despair. She insulted Warka using every unkind word she knew. Warka tried hard to calm her, and then she went to her room and lay on her bed, miserable and exhausted. The next morning, Warka did not come downstairs as usual. Her grandmother thought She was still sleeping, so she waited for some time before going up to her room to awaken her. She went up to Warka's bed and called her softly, but she was shocked when she touched Warka's hand and found it was hot, and she saw that Warka was taking quick, shallow breaths. Warka opened her eyes and looked at her grandmother, who asked her quickly, "What is wrong, Warka dear?" "I don't know. Shall I call a doctor?" "Yes, please, I don't feel well." Her grandmother did not know who to call, and she phoned Mr. Mahir to ask him to bring a doctor. She reached him at his office and told him, "Oh, Mr. Mahir, please come quickly and help Warka. She is very sick." "What is the matter with her?" he asked rather indifferently. "She is sick and needs a doctor." "Doctors are not in their clinics in the mornings." "You can find one. Not all of them work in hospitals." Warka's grandmother persisted. "I'm quite busy with some clients. Wait until the afternoon, and if she is still sick, call me." Distraught, Warka's grandmother hung up the telephone. She tried some herbal remedies, but nothing helped Warka. That afternoon she telephoned Mahir again, but she was told that he had gone out of town on business and would not be back until the next day. She recited some Quranic verses and different prayers by Warka's beside. In the evening Warka's condition worsened, and her grandmother was at a loss as to what to do. She called Mahir's office, but in vain. She did not try to call anyone else. But when she saw how sick her granddaughter was, she cursed herself and said, "I have killed my granddaughter with my own hands. I must do something to save her." She dialed the number of the hospital and asked to speak with Dr. Miad. The nurse who had answered the telephone told her the doctor was asleep, but Warka's grandmother insisted upon speaking to her. The nurse promised to give the doctor Warka's phone number as she hung up. The telephone rang almost immediately, and Warka's grandmother tearfully told the doctor about Warka's condition, begging her to come home quickly to save her. Dr. Miad noted her address and promised to come immediately. After a short while the doorbell rang. Warka's grandmother, forgetting all about her hatred, opened the door for Dr. Miad and welcomed her. She showed the door to Warka's room, and Dr. Miad expressed grave concern for Warka's health. "I must have assistance," Dr. Miad said. "She is critically ill." "Where can you find another doctor at this late hour?" "My brother is in the car outside." "Oh, please ask him in. He may be able to save her," Warka's grandmother urged. Dr. Miad asked her brother to come in. He examined Warka and diagnosed her sickness. They agreed that she should be taken to the hospital, but Warka's grandmother was terrified. "Is she that sick? Is she dying? Woe to me! I have killed her." The doctor said, "It is vitally important that she be taken to the hospital. Won't you agree?" "Of course I will," said the grandmother quickly. An ambulance was requested, and it soon came. Dr. Miad promised to take care of Warka, and so her grandmother remained at home. Dr. Miad reassured her and said she would stay in touch by phone. Warka responded well to treatment, but she was still unconscious. Dr. Miad and her brother were by Warka's bed when they heard her murmur, "It is not possible that their father is a murderer. Oh, Miad can't be the daughter of a killer. Please, Grandma, make that silly man Mahir go away. Let them have the house. How can I refuse her brother? I only saw them twice. I don't want." Dr. Miad looked pale and turned to her brother. "You heard what she said, didn't you?" "Yes. It seems she had a reason for her refusal." "What shall we do now?" asked Miad. "Let her recover first, and we can settle the matter later." 2 days later, Warka was much better and Miad was in her room when she awoke and looked around in amazement. She saw her friend but closed her eyes again in disbelief, thinking she was dreaming. Dr. Miad took her hand and said, "How do you feel now, dear sister?" Warka opened her eyes and asked weakly, "Are you really Dr. Miad, or am I dreaming?" "Oh no, you are not dreaming, thank God. You are well again." "Where is my grandmother?" "She is at home. I told her I would take her place and stay with you. I will send for her now to come see you." "How was I brought here?" Warka asked. "You are tired now, so rest. I will tell you all about it tomorrow. I will go phone your grandmother now." "Please don't leave me alone. I'm afraid." "You are getting well. Why are you scared?" "I am not afraid of sickness," Warka explained. "I am afraid of people. I won't be away for long, just a few minutes." At that moment the door was opened by her grandmother, who rushed toward her. Dr. Miad said, "She is all right and has asked about you." The grandmother kissed her gently and Warka asked, "How did you get here, Grandma?" "The doctor who was with Miad the day you became ill brought me." Dr. Miad was proud of her brother and said, "My brother, Sinid, is wonderful, isn't he?" Warka didn't understand, so she closed her eyes and said nothing. Warka's grandmother sat near her, and Dr. Miad left the room. She was very happy to see Warka improving. Warka's grandmother was at a loss as to how she would feel about Dr. Miad. She explained to Warka how she had called Dr. Miad for help after Mahir had shown no concern. She told her how the brother and sister had worked to save her. Warka then said, "Now you can see the difference between their behavior and Mr. Mahir's." Her grandmother began to say, "In fact, they are good examples of unselfish, kind people. Mahir has shown his true face, but—" Warka guessed what she had been about to say, but turned to Almighty Allah for help. The next morning Dr. Miad came and was pleased to see Warka was quite well. The doctor told Warka's grandmother, "You can take a rest. I will sit by Warka in the meantime." She agreed and lay down on the sofa with her face to the wall. Warka thanked Dr. Miad for all she had done and told her, "Twice you have done me a great favor. You helped me with my belief as well as with my health. I don't know how to thank you. This is the duty of every sister. Actually, I am grateful to your grandmother for calling me. Oh, sister, she is very happy with you." Warka stand, so she closed her eyes and said nothing, said, "You call me a sister, but you don't know the details of my life," said Dr. Miad. "Is it a special life story then?" "Yes, it begins years before my brother and I were born." "Are you twins?" "Yes, we are, but he was ahead of me in his studies because I was very ill for 3 years during my childhood." "Did you notice the resemblance between him and me?" "Well, I never thought much about it," said Warka. "I thought so," said Dr. Miad. She continued, "The story is also about my real father, who died in a car accident a month before I was born. My brother and I were both orphans, but our father died 2 years ago." Warka's grandmother turned in order to listen better. The doctor resumed her story. "My father, Abdul Razak, was a poor man, but a virtuous one. My mother married him after having refused to marry a wealthy cousin of hers who was a loose, deviated man. My mother was rich and beautiful. When my father died, she suffered a lot. The rich cousin and his mother were nearby to help, and a few months later his mother persuaded my mother to marry her son. At first she refused, but the young cousin promised to behave well and take care of her small family. He expressed his love and compassion until my mother finally married him. Then, when she discovered that he had attracted our birth to his name, she became angry and went back to her father's old house. Her husband still did not leave her alone, and he eventually took her back to his house. We grew up thinking he was our real father. We were always surprised by his cruelty towards us. "He was unkind to you?" asked Warka. "Yes, he was. He never kept his word to my mother. He squandered all of his wealth, and she suffered much. She died a few years ago. When we were old enough, she told us about our father, and even gave us proof of it." "What kind of proof?" "Some letters which he had written to her, in which he wrote the reason why he gave us his name. She also told us of certain persons who knew the facts. We suffered from his bad reputation until he died 2 years ago. Then we found in a private box an official letter in which he confessed that they were not his own children. He had written the name of our real father. Perhaps he did not want us to inherit the wealth he had made by cheating and stealing. Anyway, his will helped us to regain our true father's name. Now you know, dear Warka, who our real father is." "Oh yes, how happy I am to find you!" Warka exclaimed joyfully. "Almighty Allah has returned you to me," added Miad, and recited the Quranic verse. "Most surely, He who has made the Quran binding to you will bring you back to destination." Al-Qasas, chapter 28, verse 85.